Hi, thanks for joining me. My name is Jiso and I'm reading Shōbōgenzō. And we're on chapter 12, Kesa kudoku, paragraph 78 in the Nishijima Cross edition. The method of washing the Kesa. Oh, by the way, I was a bit poorly yesterday, so I haven't really got a full voice, so apologies if it's a bit hard to hear and I might not do quite as much today. The method of washing the Kesa. Put the Kesa unfolded into a clean tub, then immerse the Kesa in fragrant, fully boiled hot water and leave it to soak for about 2 hours. Another method is to soak the Kesa in pure, fully boiled ash water and to wait for the water to cool. Nowadays, we usually use the hot ash water method. Hot ash water is what we call aku no yu here in Japan. When the ash water has cooled, rinse the Kesa again and again in clean and clear hot water. During the rinsing, do not put in both hands to scrub the Kesa and do not tread on it. Continue until any dirt or grease has been removed. After that, mix aloes, sandalwood, or other incense into some cold water and rinse the Kesa. Then hang it onto a washing pole to dry. After it is thoroughly dry, fold it and put it in a high place, burn incense and scatter petals, walk around it several times with the Kesa to the right and perform prostrations. After making 3 prostrations, 6 prostrations, or 9 prostrations, kneel up and join the hands, then hold the Kesa up with both hands and in the mouth recite the verse in praise of the Kesa. After that, stand up and put on the Kesa according to the method. The World-Honored One addressed the Great Assembly. In the ancient past, when I was in the order of the Buddha Jewel Treasury, I was the Bodhisattva Great Compassion. At that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Great Compassion made the following vow before the Buddha Jewel Treasury. World-Honored One, if after I become a Buddha, there were living things who had entered my Dharma and left home and who wore the Kesa, even if they were bhikshus, bhikshunis, upasakas, upasikas, who had accumulated heavy sins by violating the grave prohibitions, by enacting false views, or by contemptuously disbelieving the 3 treasures, and in a single moment of consciousness, the reverence arose in their mind to honour the Samgati robe, and the reverence arose in their mind to honour the World-Honoured One, or the Dharma, and the Sangha, but, World-Honoured One, even one among those living beings could not, in one of the 3 vehicles, receive affirmation, and as a result regressed or went astray. It would mean that I had deceived the Buddhas who are present now in the worlds of the 10 directions and in countless infinite asamkhya kalpas, and I surely should not realize anuttara samyak sambodhi. World-Honored One, after I have become Buddha, if gods, dragons and demons and human and non-human beings are able to wear this Kesa, to venerate, to serve offerings to honour and to praise it, as long as those people are able to see a small part of this Kesa, they will be able not to regress while within the 3 vehicles. When living beings are afflicted by hunger or thirst, whether they are wretched demons, miserable people, or living beings in the state of hungry ghosts, if they are able to attain a piece of the Kesa, even as small as 4 inches, they will at once be able to eat and drink their fill and to accomplish quickly whatever they wish. When living beings offend each other, causing ill will to arise and a fight to develop, or when gods, dragons, demons, Gandharva, Asura, Garuda, Kimnara, Mahagora, Kambanda, Pisaka, and human and non-human beings are fighting each other, if they remember this Kesa in due course, By virtue of the power of the Kesa, they will beget the mind of compassion, soft and flexible mind, mind free of enmity, serene mind, the regulated mind of virtue, and they will get back the state of purity. When people are in armed conflict, a civil lawsuit, or a criminal action, if they retain a small piece of this Kesa as they go among these combatants, and if in order to protect themselves they serve offerings to, venerate, and honour it, these other people will be unable to injure, to disturb, or to make fools of them. They will always be able to beat their opponents and to come through such difficulties. World-honoured one, if my Kesa were unable to accomplish these 5 sacred merits, it would mean that I had deceived the Buddhas who are present now in the worlds of the 10 directions and in countless infinite asamkhaya kalpas. And in future, I ought not to accomplish Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi or to do Buddhist works. Having lost the virtuous Dharma, I would surely be unable to destroy non-Buddhism. Good sons, at the time of the Tathagata jewel treasury, good sons, at that time the Tathagata jewel treasury extended his golden right arm and patted the head of Bodhisattva Great Compassion, praising him with these words. Very good, stout fellow. What you have said is a great and rare treasure, and is great wisdom and virtue. When you have realized Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, this robe, the Kesa, will be able to accomplish these 5 sacred merits and to produce great benefit. Good sons, at that time the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Great Compassion, after hearing the praise of that Buddha, jumped endlessly for joy. Then the Buddha again extended his golden arm with his hand of long webbed fingers, as soft as the robe of a goddess. When he patted the Bodhisattva's head, the Bodhisattva's body changed at once into the youthful figure of a man of 20. Good sons, in that order the great assembly of gods, dragons, deities, Gandharva, and human and non-human beings, with folded arms, folded hands, venerated Bodhisattva Great Compassion. They served him offerings of all kinds of flowers. They even made music and offered that, and they also praised him in all kinds of ways, after which they abode in silence. It's always a bit of a surprise to read that bit and discover that the Buddha had webbed fingers. From the age when the Tathagata was in the world until today, whenever the merits of the Kesa are quoted from the sutras and the Vinaya of bodhisattvas and shravakas, these 5 sacred merits are always considered fundamental. Truly, Kesas are the Buddha robes of the Buddhas of the 3 times. Their merits are measureless. At the same time, to get the Kesa in the Dharma of Shakyamuni Buddha may be even better than to get the Kesa in the Dharma of other Buddhas. The reason, if asked, is that in the ancient past, when Shakyamuni Buddha was in the causal state as the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Great Compassion, when he offered his 500 great vows before the Buddha jewel treasury, he pointedly made the above vows in terms of the merits of the Kesa. Its merits may be utterly measureless and unthinkable. This being so, the authentic transmission to the present of the skin, flesh, bones, and marrow of the world-honoured one is the Kesa robe. The ancestral masters who have authentically transmitted the right Dharma Eye treasury have, without exception, authentically transmitted the Kesa. The living beings who have received and retained this robe and humbly received it upon their heads have, without exception, attained the truth within 2 or 3 lives. Even when people have put the Kesa on their body for a joke or for gain, it has inevitably become the causes and conditions for their attaining the truth. The ancestral master Nagarjuna says, further, in the Buddha Dharma, people who have left family life, even if they break the precepts and fall into sin, after they have expiated their sins, they can attain liberation. As the Bhikshuni Utpalavana explains in the Jataka Sutra. When the Buddha is in the world, this Bhikshuni attains the 6 mystical powers and the state of an arhat. She goes into the houses of nobles, and constantly praises the method of leaving family life, saying to all the aristocratic ladies, sisters, you should leave family life. The noble women say, we are young and our figures are full of life and beauty. It will be difficult for us to keep the precepts. Sometimes we might break the precepts. The Bhikshuni says, if you break the precepts, you break them. Just leave family life. They ask, if we break the precepts, we will fall into hell. Why should we want to break them? She answers, if you fall into hell, you fall. The noble women all laugh at this, saying, in hell, we would have to receive retribution for our sins. Why should we want to fall into hell? The Bhikshuni says, I remember in my own past life, once I became a prostitute, wore all kinds of clothes, and spoke in an old-fashioned language. One day I put on a Bhikshuni robe as a joke, and due to this as a direct and indirect cause at the time of Kasāya Buddha, I became a Bhikshuni. I was still proud then of my noble pedigree and fine features. Vanity and arrogance arose in my mind, and I broke the precepts. Because of the wrongness of breaking the precepts, I fell into hell and suffered for my various sins. But after I had suffered retribution, I finally met Shakyamuni Buddha, transcended family life, and attained the 6 mystical powers and the truth of an arhat. Thus, I know that when we leave family life and receive the precepts, even if we break the precepts due to the precepts as direct and indirect causes, we can attain the truth of an arhat. If I had only done bad without the precepts as direct and indirect causes, I could not have attained the truth. In the past, I fell into hell in age after age. When I got out of hell, I became a bad person, and when that bad person died, I went back into hell. There was no gain at all. Now, therefore, I know from experience that when we leave family life and receive the precepts, even if we break the precepts, with this as a direct and indirect cause, we can attain the Bodhi effect. The primary cause of this Bhikshuni Utpalavana attaining the truth as an arhat is just the merit of her putting the Kesa on her body for a joke. Because of this merit and no other merit, she has now attained the truth. In her second life, she meets the Dharma of Kasāya Buddha and becomes a Bhikshuni. In her third life, she meets Shakyamuni Buddha and becomes a great arhat, equipped with the 3 kinds of knowledge and the 6 powers. The 3 kinds of knowledge are supernatural insight, knowing past lives, and ending the superfluous. The 6 powers are the power of mystical transmutation, the power to know others' minds, the power of supernatural sight, the power of supernatural hearing, the power to know past lives, and the power to end the superfluous. Truly, when she was only a wrongdoer, she died and entered hell to no avail, coming out of hell and becoming a wrongdoer again. But when she has the precepts as direct and indirect causes, although she has broken the precepts and fallen into hell, they are the direct and indirect causes of her attaining the truth at last. Now, even someone who has worn the Kesa for a joke can attain the truth in her third life. How then could someone who has established pure belief and who wears the Kesa for the sake of the supreme state of Bodhi fail to accomplish that merit? Still further, If we receive and retain the Kesa throughout our life, humbly receiving it upon the head, the merit might be universal and great beyond measure. Any human being who would like to establish the Bodhi mind should receive and retain the Kesa and humbly receive it upon the head without delay. To have met this favourable age, but not to have sown a Buddhist seed, would be deplorable. Having received a human body on the southern continent, having met the Dharma of Shakyamuni Buddha, and having been born to meet an ancestral master who is a perfectly legitimate successor to the Buddha Dharma, if we idly passed up the chance to receive the Kesa which has been transmitted one-to-one and which is directly accessible, that would be deplorable. Now, in regard to the authentic transmission of the Kesa, the one authentic transmission from the ancestral master is right and traditional. Other masters cannot stand shoulder to shoulder with him. Even to receive and retain the Kesa following a master who has not received the transmission is still of very profound merit. But much more than that, if we receive and retain the Kesa from a true master who has quite legitimately received the face-to-face transmission, we may really be the Dharma children and the Dharma grandchildren of the Tathagata himself, and we may actually have received the authentic transmission of the Tathagata's skin, flesh, bones and marrow. The Kesa, in conclusion, has been authentically transmitted by the Buddhas of the 3 times and the 10 directions without interruption. It is what the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas of the 3 times and the 10 directions have, in like manner, guarded and retained. Thanks for listening.